this morning we're going to leave some of the metaphysical issues that we've discussed other times in these talks and focus more on the practical application of what it means to be a student of A Course in Miracles, and what it means to kind of live our daily life under the principle of forgiveness. And each of us is confronted with a myriad number of things. Some we think are major, some we think are minor, but things throughout the day, not to mention our lives, that push our buttons, as the phrase goes, or that upset us, that disturb our peace. And these could go from trivial things like we're driving on the freeway or the highway and someone cuts us off. We're standing on a supermarket line and it's the express lane. The express line was only supposed to have 10 items and we count somebody has 13 and a half, and we find ourselves getting upset. Or things that would say to be more monumental, we lose our job through no fault of our own. There's a mortgage payment due. There's a car payment due. We have a loved one that's just been told that he or she has cancer. We've been told we have cancer. We turn on the news and we feel that the World War III is around the corner, or the collapse of the financial markets mean financial ruin for our families. All these kinds of things that we all are confronted with. Health issues in ourselves, whether they're major like cancer, that I just mentioned, or that I don't like the way I look, I don't like this extra wrinkle, or I don't like that I've gained a couple of pounds, whatever it would be. And it doesn't matter. And when Jesus tells us that a mild twinge of annoyance is the same as intense fury or rage, he's telling us that there's no hierarchy of illusions, which counteracts the ego's first law of chaos. He's explaining why there's no order of difficulty in miracles, which is the first principle of miracles. It's because every problem is the same, right? Which means every problem has to be solved the same way. And what Jesus does in this course, being a master psychologist and heavily basing his teachings on the course, especially of the ego, on the tremendous genius of Freud, is that he helps us understand motivation, which is another way of talking about purpose. In other words, there's a reason why we get upset. Right? Regardless of hearing that I've just been told I have cancer, or I have a splinter in my finger, or someone cut me off on the freeway, that regardless of the seeming magnitude or littleness of the presenting problem, there is still a decision in my mind to let it affect me. That's the key element. No matter what goes on around me, I do not have to sacrifice the love and the peace of God that is within my mind. As Lesson 34 says, I could always see peace instead of this. I could be at peace regardless of what's going on in my life, regardless of what's going on in the world. Right? And this helps me. Once I understand this principle, which is the core of forgiveness, once I understand this principle, I could practice it and apply it each and every time I become upset. The temptation is to make certain problems more serious than others, more problematic than others, more impossible to solve than others. And indeed, when you look at the world only from the perspective of the world, that certainly appears to be the case. But what is that to a mind that has the power to choose? The power to choose the judgment of the ego versus the vision of the Holy Spirit. The Course says vision or judgment is your choice, but never both of these. You have to choose one or the other. So what is this to us, who knows that we are a mind? And that is the key thing. If I let something in the world upset me, it is only because my mind has chosen to give that something, that person, that event, power to upset me. Since the Course teaches us, and here's where the metaphysical foundation dovetails in with the practical application, the Course teaches us that there is literally nothing outside of our minds. Ideas leave not their source, as we've examined elsewhere in these talks. And if ideas leave not their source, there is no external world. The thought of separation and the thought system that arose from it never leaves the mind, which means there's nothing outside of my mind to upset me. But there is a decision-making part of my mind that can choose to be upset. And we choose to be upset. Here's the question of motivation again. We choose to be upset because that's what keeps the love of God away. That's what keeps the awareness or the memory of God's love away, which is in our right mind, held there by the Holy Spirit. And if I'm not aware of that love and do not identify with it, then my individual, special, unique self is preserved. So it's the desire to preserve this self, this individual, special self, against the encroachments, the encroachment of God's love, in which there is no I and there is no separate itself. It is that desire that leads me to do whatever it would be to keep that love away. And so I choose, number one, to have the problem of guilt in my mind, then I project it out, and then I choose to make up a world, both collectively as well as individually, a world where there are a continual source of problems that continually affect me and impinge on my peace. And I believe, since I don't know I have a mind at this point, I believe that that is what makes me upset, or that that's what makes me happy. So the practical way of dealing with problems is to realize the problem is that I believe there's a problem. That is the problem, not the form of the problem, but that I believe, my mind believes there's a problem. It's in that recognition that salvation comes. And it is that recognition, which is the holy instant, that is the purpose of A Course in Miracles.